So Bernie Sanders' effort to add the $15 minimum wage back into the stimulus package has failed largely because of conservative Democrats like Joe Manchin and others.
Mr. Cornyn. No. Mr. Manchin. No. Mr. Langford. No. Ms. Hirono. Aye.
You know, when we look at the economy, people look at the stock market, they look at a whole lot of indices out there. But at the end of the day, we have to ask ourselves what is going on in the lives of ordinary people. And it is not acceptable to me that half of our people live in paycheck to paycheck and millions of people are trying to get by on $9, $10, $11 an hour. And you know what? You can't do that. You can't do that in Vermont, and you can't do it in California, you can't do it in Minnesota. You can't do that. And our job is to make sure that we have an economy that works for all and not just the few. And that in order to do that, we are going to have to raise that minimum wage to $15 an hour.
And so I played you a couple clips there. The first is of Manchin and some other senators voting on this bill. Manchin voting no, of course. And then I played you a clip of Bernie really pouring out his heart and soul. He's not just a senator. He's a man that deeply cares about the working class. He really does. It means everything to him. And he knows how people are suffering on these low minimum wages. $7.25, but even a couple bucks more than that is still starvation. And he knows people deserve $15 ASAP, and 15 by 2025 is already the compromise, but Bernie wants to get people as quickly as he can to that minimum wage as is humanly possible. And of course the Republican ghouls are going to block it, but multiple Democrats, I have a list here. You got Manchin, you got King, he's an independent that sits with the Democrats like Bernie, Shaheen, Sinema, Coons, Carper, Hassen, there's others, I think John Tester, that might not even be the complete list, but basically like 10 Democrats sided with the Republican ghouls over the American working class and over the vast majority of people, especially Democratic voters, that want a $15 minimum wage. Again, this is not a policy that was invented after the election. This was not a policy that only Bernie and Warren and Markey and the progressive senators supported. This was central to the Biden-Harris campaign. It was one of their core promises. When the Democrats won, this was one of the biggest 2 or 3 things they talked about. It was COVID relief and this and maybe healthcare, and those were the big policies. And they had an opportunity to vote where they stand, even if ultimately it would have failed, and like 10 Democrats at least stood against the people. It's absolutely absurd. So many of these people like to think they're better than Republicans, like to think that unlike the Republicans, they care about working people. But they had a moment there to vote. They had that vote, they had that voice, and they chose to use it against the working class and for poverty, for starvation, for exploitation, for injustice. That's what they did. That's what so many Democrats, every Republican, yes, but so many Democrats did. And you know what's going to be crazy about this, guys? You know what's going to be crazy about this? Is that come 2022 and probably 2024, the Democrats are going to take a walloping because of this and for some reason cutting how many people get the stimulus checks. All these stupid decisions that no regular person actually supports, but like a couple dozen people, maybe like 5 or 6 Democratic moderates, bullied Joe Biden into doing it, and they're going to do it. And they're going to lose seats in the House, and they're going to lose seats in the Senate, and they're going to look around and remember this because they are going to blame Bernie Sanders. They're going to blame Bernie and AOC and Ilhan Omar and the rest of the squad. They're going to blame those people. They're going to blame Black Lives Matter activists. They're going to blame whoever they can that's not centrist or moderate or a conservative Dem. They will blame them instead of their own failures. It's not going to be Bernie Sanders' fault that people like Manchin and Sinema and so many others got up and blocked the central promise from the Joe Biden campaign. That's not the left's fault. So remember this moment. These sorts of moments are very instructive because if and when the Democrats blow it in 2022, mark my words, the first thing they're going to try to do is blame the left. But we need to remind them that it's their fault, that when you promise the American people $2,000 checks and a $15 minimum wage, and you deliver neither, don't blame anybody but yourselves when those same working class people don't feel excited to vote for you. Like, again, I just want to underline, this is a bit of a funny clip here, but here is Bernie. He just really gives a damn about regular people.
You got young people who want to go to school, want to socialize, want to date, want to do things that young people do, and they can't do it and have been unable to do that for the last year, and that has resulted in a very sharp increase in mental illness in this country, something, by the way, that this legislation also deals with.
Like, Bernie's talking about this bill, talking about this. He wants young people to experience life, even in this very serious moment. He's like, young people need to date. They need to have fun. They need to enjoy their lives. And we need to pass the best stimulus package, which will get them, freedom, but also wages that give them dignity and the ability to enjoy life. That's a man that cares about people. Manchin and the rest of his Democratic ghoulery don't give a damn about you. And frankly, they ain't that much better than Lindsey Graham and the rest of the Republican ghouls.